Hey guys, I'm Nero back for my Leaguestart video for the upcoming 326 Mercenaries of Something League for PoE 1. Personally, I'm gonna be starting Poison Concoction into Vampire Strike of the Mamba swap on roughly day 2. I have provided a POB in the description for my progression plan, and I'll now go through it. I don't have any gameplay for you, sadly. I've not played either PConc of bouncing or Mamba before, so yeah, should be fun. But the POBs look good. I'm confident. So yeah, let's go through it. Yeah, I'm starting Pathfinder, of course, for PConc. Quick progression through Normal Lab, Crew Lab, and Merc Lab. And after Merc Lab, I'm either doing a little bit of heist, depending on the prices of the bouncing gem, to get the bouncing gem. It does quite a lot of more DPS, and then try to instantly swap into the bouncing. Get a projectile mastery for a lot more damage towards level 85, and towards level 90 try to pick up a cluster, just it's basically an empty cluster in here, and 2 projectile clusters to alt spam for follow through, which yeah, then gives you all the DPS you should need basically for the 4 stones, like roughly 6 million or so on a setup with a little bit of starter gear and with a 6-link dendrobate. Before the 6-link dendrobate, I would run the PConc in the embalmer gloves for a pseudo 5-link. Yeah, rest should be fine. I like Mark of Submission with Despair, so I don't have to cast my curse for normal gameplay. Yeah, other than that, Fury Valve is too expensive, just run a rare amulet with dot multi. Shouldn't make too much of a difference. Yes. For the more interesting stuff, the bouncing stuff, a few people have starters. The more interesting stuff is the Mamba POBs. The starter POB I've planned out for roughly level 90. I think that's the earliest you actually want to swap. I think I personally gonna be a bit higher. I'm aiming towards 93 to 95. And I'm planning for a gear level between the starter and the mid-game setup that I've planned. In general, for all of the setups, they are running Pyroclast Mines and Ambush together with a perfect Agony setup. However, all of the mines and the ambush are always disabled in the config. So the DPS you see down here is without any buffs enabled and without the enemy being on full life, which is also in the starter POB pretty big damage. Yeah. For defenses, I'm running just a lightning coil. For early on with a fist convert on 1 mod on helmet. We're running capped spell suppression. If you don't have any spell suppress on gear yet, you can run lucky spell suppress. Should be also still nearly 100% with lucky, so shouldn't be too much of a difference. For the Mamba swap, you need at least 2 clusters. You need 2 times chaos clusters. The mods on the chaos cluster itself don't really matter, so I've just put empty ones in here. I wouldn't spend any money rolling those. Better to save up money to spend for something else. Yes, and then running 4 times low tolerance jewels, just alt spammed. Should be around 80 alts, I think, to spam those. And then for the normal jewels, I'm just running life and crit multi. Should cost 5 chaos or whatever these cost, so it shouldn't be too much of a difference. There are like 3 or 4 crit multi mods you can use, so should be plenty available on the market. Yeah, other than that, the starter POB is not too complicated. We're running for Mamba. This is on a 5-link. We're running on the 6-link. I would run 2 times added damage. This just makes the mapping DPS a lot better without any mines. Because of the daggers, they are so shit in this POB. They are tier 2 essence into tier 5 flat roll and just crafted crit chance. So those are 10 Z daggers plus whatever the base costs. Yeah, other than that, on a 5-link, I would run on a 6-link the added cold until you get better daggers. But for defenses or for auras, running Purity of Elements on all of the setups until the end game. So on even the end game, running Purity of Elements for ailment immunity. Running Petrified Blood because of Pathfinder Life Flask. We're basically relying on the Life Flask for all of our recovery, or nearly all of our recovery. Later on scaling it to nearly 10k per second. Early on starting with roughly 1k and then 2.5k in the mid game. Yeah, Flesh and Stone as well. Since the rework Sandstand's very good defensive aura, and this alone should be enough to survive you easily into 16 maps, 16k fuse max hit, 40k anything. This is without any guard skill, since we're pretty socket staffed. For Wither, we're only running Withering Step. All of the configurations have Wither stacks equal to the amount that Withering Step applies. So Withering Step is basically our only source of Wither, which in the end game with Enhance and with Ashes is 14. So basically kept all of the time. Yeah, the config is purely bossing config. During normal gameplay, if you have unveiled endurance rings, you will have endurance charges as well. You will have frenzy charges during mapping from Blood Rage, but I've disabled everything that's not up on a boss. Yes. Yeah, damage numbers. Yeah, without any buffs, we're talking 1.7 million DPS for the early game setup. However, this escalates with buffs. So if you take a full life enemy, for example, a Guardian, we want to hit once only. So it is on full life. We activate our mines, we activate our ambush, and we're on nearly 13 million. So the mines do a lot of the heavy lifting for boss damage at the start. Just keep that in mind. That's why I wouldn't swap too early into the Mamba setup, since if you don't have good enough daggers or high enough support gems with added damage, then your mapping DPS will be very lacking, and Poison Concoction of Bouncing will just be way more damage for mapping and provide you a bit smoother clear. So don't swap too early. Yeah, for mid game, we're basically focusing on defenses a bit more and upgrading the damage a bit with voices. We're swapping to 5 passive voices. I would not do 7 passives. Too much passive points wasted, since you need 2 more points. Yeah, voices, just add 2 more low tolerances that are all spammed. Try to fix a little bit of either resists or attributes on the mediums as well with the mods. Just slam them until 4 mod and hope you get something good. We're capping crit now since in the starter PoB we're running an Uncle's Harmony to cap our crit with a lot of crit chance. For the mid game, we're capping crit with the Brutal Restraint with crit chance while blinded. So this gives us, just a lot more crit strike chance. For the Brutal Restraint mods, Onslaught on Kill is very nice. In the end game, you want Onslaught on Kill and 1 node with Alchemist's Genius when you use a flask to get a bit more flask effect. But for the mid game, just a 1 prop jewel is completely fine. The Alch Genius is not really needed in the mid game. Yeah, for defenses, still running the Lightning Coil, now upgrading with Melding to 90 cap all res with the Topaz Flask and with a lot of max res Lightning Jewels. These are all free mod. If you can't get the free mod ones, try to get the least life plus lightning res, and then any damage mod. There are a few you can use, poison duration, I don't know, even attack speed or whatever for quality of life, maybe not bad. But yeah, crit chance, crit multi would be the best one. Yeah, other than that, pretty simple setup. The life flask is now upgraded to 2.5k life recovery. We added a lot of life recovery tattoos on the tree, basically tattooing all of the decks away that you can afford to make sure we fit as many tattoos as possible. For auras, I added an Enlighten Free to not need the second aura wheel. Yeah, and we're also running precision on Arrogance to cap our accuracy without needing the hits can be evaded on the weapons. Yeah, for the end game with mines is easily Uberdot capped. This is with mines enabled already. Probably disable those. yeah, even with mines disabled, endgame on a normal Pinnacle PoE is nearly dot capped. This is just because of some better daggers. This is without precision. So we have a bit more tankiness with nearly 180k max hits. Adding Progenesis plus the Tides of Time just provides a shit ton more life recovery from the life flask, and you need that to balance out the Progenesis plus the Petrified Blood life degen. So you need a big life flask to not go down in life when you have all of that stuff that's given to you over time. Yeah, 3 passive voices as upgrade, of course. Yeah, pretty expensive, but it just saves you 2 passive points. Can drop a few life nodes if you can't afford 2. The Fleet Flute cluster is not really needed. If you want a bit more play with ambush, you can take that. If not, then spec some more life nodes or whatever. Yeah, and the endgame no mines PoB drops the mines completely. Only uses ambush as DPS button. It's still, this is an Uber config, nearly Uber dot capped without any mines. This is just running triple T1 dagger. And then still lightning coil for defenses, melding, Progenesis, same setup as on the other endgame setup. Yeah, if you want more damage, you can swap the life recovery from Flask Tattoos to Mark Effect, since we're also running the Focal Point Forbidden Flames for more Mark Effects. And we're running the Alchemist's Mark and the Despair on Battle Mage's Cry Auto Exert to apply them automatically during mapping and have the Mark transfer during mapping. Just gives us a lot more DPS without any setup during maps. So, and this is I think way better than the mine setup for T17 farming, which this build should be really nice for. Yeah, flasks, same diamond flask, topaz flask, quicksilver flask, and Progenesis, and the life flask. Yeah. Only thing that's really changed on here is I'm running some 2 mode mediums, not all. I decided to run Brute for Potency, gives you a bit more life recovery, gives you more flask charges to enable you to run an Eternal Life Flask instead of a Divine one, nearly doubles your life recovery. Also, although you need to click it more often, so if you don't enjoy pressing a life flask every 2.5 seconds, feel free to run just the Divine Life Flask. It has a lot more duration, 4.3 seconds, so that's a lot more chill to play. Other than that, I think the setup is pretty simple. Feel free to go through it on your own. Yeah, for what I'm farming, personally, I'm gonna be running the bouncing setup, like I said, to roughly 93, 95. I'm gonna probably be starting Expedition, do a bit of Frog and 2-gen to fund something nearly around the mid-game setup, and then transition into T17 farming and maybe doing some more bossing, since the build is very strong on bosses and the mid-game setup should have plenty of defenses for T17s. So I'm pretty confident in that. But yeah, we'll see what happens with T16.5s and so on. Yeah. For those interested in delving, I've planned my delve build, I think, already for the end game, but I don't want to spoil anything yet. But yeah, stay tuned until I think 2 to 3 weeks into the league. Maybe I can start on the delve build. But yeah, nothing set in stone yet. We'll see what new stuff comes out for the Roomcraft. A few of those looked very interesting. Also very interested in a few of the caster buffs. So yeah, keep tuned. Other than that, if you have any questions for the startup PoB or any criticisms or whatever, if you think something will not work like I think it will, feel free to point it out. I'm happy to adjust and take suggestions. But yeah, hope you guys have a great Leaguestart and see you guys in Raycast.